What's up, board fam? You want to see try hard? We're going to look at try hard today. You want to see desperation? There's going to be a lot of desperation on the screen. We're going to be watching a video from fake film reviewer, The Critical Drinker, where he has to scrape the bottom of the barrel because he is so desperate for outrage content. He's going to be going after this movie, The End of Oak Street, that is not connected to a Marvel franchise, DC, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. It's not connected to any of that stuff. It's its own brand new IP, and it's going up against Spider-Man Brand New Day and The Odyssey, which are currently juggernauts in the box office, sucking up all the screens. And he's decided that he wants to go after this movie, which, as you can see on the screen, it's been well received by critics and fans that have actually seen the movie. And every argument he's going to use in his video, and I want you to pay attention to it, every argument he's going to make in his video on why this movie is not performing well would be based on people actually seeing the movie. Because the advertising didn't show anything that he's talking about in his video. And I think it's fantastic because it tells me that he really wants to paint this movie in a bad light. It isn't doing well financially at the box office, but I saw the movie. I thought it was pretty good. And so did the people that voted here on Rotten Tomatoes. But let's go ahead and watch his review for The End of Oak Street and see just how desperate he is to flop watch something at the end of 2026.
August. That wonderful time of year when the carefree days of summer are coming to an end, the kids are getting ready to go back to school, and movie studios shart out the last dregs of their wannabe summer blockbusters that didn't quite make the cuts. Case in point, The End of Oak Street.
Okay, so I want to point out, this is, if you're new to my channel, this is something that most viewers know that these guys do. They like to poison the well. Like if this movie came out and it wasn't up against any bigger films in the box office, I think it would have a better shot. But it has nothing to do with the time of year that the movie is getting released. Because right now we have 2 movies in theaters right now that are breaking records. But he's trying to cook. Let's give him a little more gas.
A weird little sci-fi adventure movie about dinosaurs in 1980s suburbia, produced by a man who hasn't overseen a big budget release in 7 years, and that one was Rise of Skywalker, and directed by a man who hasn't made a movie of
Rise of Skywalker. I wonder how much money that movie made. Oh, that's right. It made over $1 billion. Huh. Interesting. But I guess it was a failure for him, and the studio probably hates the fact they made $1 billion off the Star Wars movie, but let's continue.
Any kind in 8 years. It's the kind of premise that feels like it emerged from an extremely quick and low-effort brainstorming session at 4:55 on a Friday afternoon before everyone headed out to the pub to drink themselves into oblivion. Hey,
what's really interesting, and you guys might not know this, is that Critical Drinker actually did an interview with the director of that movie, Primitive War. And he praised that movie for a lot of things. He talked about this fun idea of taking dinosaurs and mixing them with something different. So like Platoon meets Jurassic Park. And he said it was a fun, interesting premise, going wild with it in this untapped niche of like hybrid films. But here, he's framing it like it's lazy slop. Like it's something that's bad when you just go fun with the idea of dinosaurs in like a 1980s suburban family survival film. So it's really interesting that you hold these things at different standards, even though they fit into that same little bubble niche where you were excited about it when you talked to the director himself. That's really interesting.
What if we had a movie about a 1980s family who have to work together to survive when dinosaurs invade their neighborhoods?
Right.
People still like the 1980s, right? And they like dinosaurs as well because those Jurassic World movies are making bank, man. I like your thinking, but we need a hook for this one. What can we do to add some drama to it? Well, let's say the parents' marriage is on the rocks because the wife's having an affair. No, we can't do that. That's sexist. Okay, the husband's a useless loser who can't support them anymore, and the wife wants to leave because she's way smarter than him and he's just holding her back. Perfect. Love it.
I love how you're creating this story in your head. None of this actually happened. He's talking about behind the scenes brainstorming about the movie and creating a story, a narrative for everybody watching his video, that the people behind the scenes made the decision to create this divorce scenario between the husband and wife. They created this decision so that it was going to make men look bad. Even though by the time we get to the end of the movie, there's a situation that happens at the end where there's a shift in her perspective, and I'll talk about that when we get there. There's a shift in her perspective that shows why they established the story the way they did. But it doesn't even matter, because what he's doing here is he's just making something up. In order for any of this to actually be a problem, people would have had to gone and seen the movie to have an issue with this. Everything he's talking about now is stuff that you would had to have been in the theater to see the movie and reject, which we know didn't happen because the movie is currently underperforming, but the Rotten Tomatoes scores reflects that people that have seen it liked the movie. So not only is he making up a complete lie in this video, but he's also trying to suggest that this is the reason why people rejected the movie, which again, you couldn't have done if you hadn't seen the movie.
But tell me, how do the dinosaurs even get there? I don't know, wormholes or something? Fuck it, good enough. Oh look, it's 5 PM. Let's go lads, first round's on me. The end of Oak Street is the kind of goofy, mash some toys together premise I'd have expected to see on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the mid-2000s, probably starring Michael Shanks or Nathan Fillion, only now it's been blown up into a $100 million summer blockbuster, sort of, with an A-list cast attached to it. I mean, how the fuck did they get Anne Hathaway for this? Nah, whatever. The plot, such as it is, revolves around Denise Platt, a 1980s housewife who lives with her husband Greg and their 2 kids in what looks like an idyllic suburban neighborhood. But all is not what it seems. The marriage is on the rocks because Greg's constantly absent and Denise is thinking about leaving him. She even pours out her frustrations into a novel about a woman desperate to escape her husband and make a new life for herself. And it's fantastic. I know this because her elderly female neighbour, who used to quietly improve her own husband's shitty books without him ever thanking her, tells me that it's fantastic. Are you getting the film's subtle message yet, dear viewer?
I can't take these guys seriously anymore. I don't even think they take themselves seriously. I don't think Critical Drinker takes himself seriously anymore. I think he knows how silly and stupid it sounds when he says stuff like this. I think he does. This didn't even feel real. This felt so try hard and so desperate, as I said at the beginning of this video, where it just doesn't make sense. So they're injecting this message into a lower budget movie to go out in a month where you claim they're dumping stuff they don't care about, but they cared enough to inject a message in the movie that, let's get this right here, that a woman is going through a troubling time with her husband, and that issue might cause them to have a divorce. And because she's the one that feels like things are going badly, and she took it upon herself to write a book about it, a script about it, or whatever, that's injecting a message into the film? But you're okay with hand-waving, gender swapping of characters in a movie like Primitive War from the book. You're okay with that gender swap in that movie, but in this movie, where it was absolutely part of the original story, that's a message. I got receipts. Let's watch what happens when Critical Drinker is interviewing a director of a movie, and that director tells him to his face that he gender swapped a character, and let's see how Critical Drinker responds to it, and if he accuses him of messaging and ideology and stuff. Let's see if he does that. Here's the receipts.
You know, in the movie, I don't know what, you know, she's portrayed as in the books, or whether it's a sort of composite character or whatever, but yeah, she's kind of got layers to her as well, like where she's this like Russian research scientist, and she's become like hopelessly addicted to morphine, and so that's something that she's like wrestling with. Like she's a completely unreliable guide. Like at times when people are like, you know, severely injured, she just like fucking makes off with the morphine so she can shoot up. It's like, it's such a...
So I just want to remind you that he hadn't read the book, and here he is like praising this woman in this movie. Let's see what Luke has to say.
Interesting, unusual thing to put into a character like that, who probably would have just been totally flat and boring otherwise, but it just gives her a layer. You know, it gives her something else that makes her more interesting. Which is
I thought it was in the book it's actually a male character, and so it was all males, and I chose to gender swap it, and there was comments early on being like, "Oh, you gender swapped it. Here we go, Hollywood gender swapping." It's so funny to read that. Read those comments because, like, I'm not Hollywood. I'm just a guy in Australia,
I don't think
but-
anyone would accuse this movie of being woke or anything either. So
Right. So when this guy does it, you give him a pass, right? You're sitting there on camera with him and you can actually say, hey, why did you choose to do it? What was the reasoning behind it? But you don't even ask him that question. You just laugh it off because clearly this guy wasn't doing anything woke. Clearly. I'm not even going to ask him about it or address the issue or even talk about it at all. I'm just going to say something funny and then laugh it off. See, you're okay when someone that you perceive as one of the good ones, you're okay when they do a gender swap. And here's the thing, you didn't even fucking know. You didn't even know that he had gender swapped the character. And here you were giving him praise for this layered woman in this movie, and it's a made-up gender swap version of another character. No accountability, no pushback whatsoever. But in a movie like The End of Oak Street, when you have a woman who's been a woman through the whole concept of this script, comes out and has a layered performance, which makes her difficult and vulnerable, but also angry. When it's that character, it's a message in Hollywood. The jokes write them fucking selves. The jokes write themselves. Desperate and Try Hard doesn't even begin to explain, not even a little bit, on how bad this looks on you and your community. Well, let's jump back over to your review of The End of Oak Street and see what other dumb shit you have to say.
Sure. Anyway, before Denise can become the girl boss she was always meant to be, a big white light engulfs the whole neighborhood, and suddenly there's
Your girl boss doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't mean anything. If you're calling a character in a movie where she's the lead character and she's the mother of kids, this family gets transported 200 million years in the past. They're running from dinosaurs. They're dealing with the possibility of being eaten or murdered or whatever by these creatures. Do you think that she's not going to be a little bit adamant about how things go? Taking care of her kids, making sure they don't leave the house, bossing people around? Like, that's a girl boss now? A mother trying to take care of her family? Her kids telling them what to do? That's a girl boss now, apparently. Apparently, any mother who is trying to watch after her family and make sure they don't get hurt is just a Hollywood girl boss. I love that framing.
Dinosaurs roaming around eating people. Oh dear. So Denise grabs the family and tries to drive away, only to discover it's not dinosaurs that have been transported to Oak Street, it's Oak Street that's been transported back to the dinosaurs.
I do want to also point out the reason why I'm watching all through this video, because typically I would cut a lot of this stuff out. The reason why I'm doing this is I want you guys to see just how much time gets padded in these videos. Like if you watch a critic on YouTube that's actually just reviewing a movie, unless they're doing a long form like dissection of the film, the reviews are usually short. They're usually like 4 to 6 minutes long because they're really just talking about their thoughts on the film without spoiling the whole movie. But with Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic, they pad their video time by simply recanting everything that happens in the big story beats of the movie. This isn't a review. It's a recap of the movie that spoils it while they make jokes about the film. That's all this is. This is what I call the cinema sins-fication of media. That's what this is.
Oh shit, mother...
So from then on, the film's a kind of race against time survival story as the family struggle to pull together and hold off the dinosaurs while figuring out how to get home. I mean, I say family, but really it's Denise who does like 90% of the work in this movie. The rest of them are just kind of along for the ride, but we'll get to that shortly.
Because she's the lead character in the movie. So your issue is that there's a woman in the lead character role? That's your problem? Our point of view character is a woman? Like when I say it's mask off for these guys every single time, like the further we get into this like fucking downward spiral of content from them, things just become very obvious. So Denise is the lead of the movie. The co-lead of the movie is Ewan, but she is the lead. So the issue is woman as lead character. Now that's a problem. They're not even trying to hide it anymore.
First up, on a purely surface level, there's definitely some fun to be had with Oak Street, even if it's shit you've seen about a dozen times already. Dinosaurs running loose and eating people isn't exactly cutting-edge storytelling in 2026, but
But you praise Primitive War for doing it. You praised that movie for doing it. You were acting like it was the best thing you'd seen. Such a cool concept. But I guess this movie, dinosaurs running after people, chasing them and eating them, it's not great anymore in 2026. Interesting how that works.
Set pieces are fun enough, there's a decent sense of spectacle and suspense, and it's surprisingly gory for a PG-13. Also, they've gone for a more modern take on the dinosaurs themselves, complete with feathers and fur, which I guess is more scientifically accurate, but as a child of Jurassic Park, I simply refuse to accept it.
This is the interesting part. Let's take a look at a little clip that I found on Twitter, because I think it's really interesting. It's also from your interview with the director of Primitive War, where you talk a bit about this too. Keep in mind, the interview with the director of Primitive War came out before this movie. Came out before the end of Oak Street.
Also, it's nice to see dinosaurs accurately depicted on screen for once, feathers and all. You know, the dinosaurs are much more accurate to the real thing, where they've got feathers. The raptors are like the actual size that raptors would be. They're not like these 10-foot tall monsters. They're just like, they're small and agile and like they can overwhelm you in large numbers. But that's it, and that's enough. And it's like, I think a lot of the dinosaur people out there who are passionate about that stuff will really appreciate that kind of attention to detail. Also, they've gone for a more modern take on the dinosaurs themselves, complete with feathers and fur, which I guess is more scientifically accurate, but as a child of Jurassic Park, I simply refuse to accept it. I want giant lizards, goddammit.
Interesting. So, in the movie Primitive War, you were excited to see accurate dinosaurs, and you glazed the director for doing this because you thought it was a good thing. But here we are in 2026, and all of a sudden now this movie does it, the end of Oak Street, but now you have a problem with it. Could it be that you don't actually give a fuck about reviewing stuff and you're just trying to push a narrative? Could that be what's going on? That couldn't possibly be it, because then that would bring up your credibility as a critic online. It would bring up whether or not you're an honest person. You're somebody that's willing to tell the truth. You're somebody that does this because you care about it. But that's not true, is it, Critical Drinker? That's not reality. There's always receipts for the shit that you do. Always. This is the second time in this review where you have contradicted yourself on a stance that you hold.
In terms of runtime, the film clocks in at a lean and mean 100 minutes or so, which was definitely a smart choice because there's only so much you can do with a story like this before the momentum starts to bleed away, and so it never really overstays its welcome. There's also some pretty interesting cinematography from David Robert Mitchell, who made a name for himself with It Follows back in 2014. There's a lot of weird, unconventional camera work going on that keeps pulling your attention towards the background, like you're constantly on edge waiting for something to happen, even when nothing actually does. It's a strange choice for what's basically a goofy Twilight Zone episode done on a big budget, and I can't shake the feeling that the director's a lot better and more creative than the movie he's been forced to make here.
I want to point out that even though 80 million, which is like the production budget for this movie is around 80 million, isn't like a small low budget, it's like a high mid budget. It's not a big budget movie. When people say big budget, we're talking like 150 million plus on a film. So he's really, really desperate here. He's trying really hard to make this one work.
Now, that's the superficial stuff about Oak Street. The more interesting conversation, if you can even call it that, is the film's subtext around a struggling marriage and the breakup of a family. And this is where the film's probably going to lose a lot of potential fans because, well, how best to put it? You know those tediously predictable TV commercials where the husband will be trying to do some basic household task while...
Here we go again, he's trying to pretend that he knows that this movie was written to try and make men look bad. And I'm going to totally destroy that narrative, and unfortunately, I have to spoil the movie to do it. So just know, I will be spoiling the end of the movie if you haven't seen it. But I'm going to destroy this narrative in a second.
The kids watch with vague amusement, but he's so inept and clueless that of course he fails miserably, and it's left to his far more capable and practical wife to sort it out for him. Well,
No, that's not the case. In the movie, he's actually struggling to tell the wife that he lost his job. And he's been working part-time jobs to try and make ends meet because he didn't want to tell her or the family that he no longer had the job that they thought he had. So he's actually a really good guy. He's just working his ass off to try and make money to keep the family afloat. And we find that out at the end of the movie. At the end of the movie, it comes out towards the end, the third act, that he'd been keeping this from her because he didn't want to let her down or let the family down. He was very embarrassed by it because he, as a man leading the family, did not want to be in a situation where he could not provide for his family. So none of what he said is true. It's all just bullshit.
That's basically the dynamic of Oak Street right there. Greg is the kind of passive, affable, vaguely submissive idea of masculinity that came straight out of early 2020s Hollywood, and
it is not. He's not. He is simply trying to make ends meet for the family, and therefore he doesn't reveal everything through the first 2 acts of the movie. He's not passive to anything. Matter of fact, they argue. They argue in the movie. There's 2 scenes where they're arguing. He's not just sitting back and letting her scream. He is arguing with her. They're contributing to it together. This is a stretch. He's really fucking stretching here.
Definitely would not have existed in the early 1980s. He's relentlessly up.
So here's a little spoiler alert about me. I came from a divorced household. My parents fought all the time. My teenage years were filled with them fighting. This is accurate. This is real. And anybody else out there that has dealt with divorce with 2 parents who are constantly fighting with each other, you know that this is real. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Optimistic, completely lacks any sense of agency or assertiveness, and his only solution is to just hope that everything works out okay.
Right. So he's jumping over the fact that the father is portrayed as a very Christian man. He believes that God is going to save them, and he has faith that God is going to save them. And his son also has faith that God is going to save them. This is established in the movie in the second act of the film. Whereas the mother and the daughter want to scientifically find a way out of this, the father and the son have a spiritual connection on this. And that's what's talked about in the movie. But he's leaving that out because he doesn't want to give them credit for having Christianity featured in a Hollywood film. Because remember, Hollywood doesn't want to do that. They don't want to talk about Christianity. They never want to do that. That's reserved for indie films and stuff like that. But in this movie, where the father explicitly says that he believes God is going to save them, he's leaving that out on purpose to lie to his audience. That's why he's leaving it out.
Great plan.
Thank you.
With her husband basically useless, it's left to Denise to find a way out. She's very much the leader of the family, taking charge in moments of crisis and...
Okay, another thing, that's a lie. When the kids go missing in the movie, Denise and Greg go looking for them together. They go looking for them together. And in the movie, when Denise is getting chased by a dinosaur, Greg tries to save her, manages to get the dinosaur off of her by going after the dinosaur single-handedly, fighting it with a baseball bat, all by himself in the movie. No one else is helping him. He does this to save her. And then she does get saved, and he ends up getting killed, being the hero, saving her in the movie. He gets eaten by a dinosaur trying to save her. So please explain to me how he's so passive and submissive to her when he literally saves her in the movie. The only reason she's alive is because he went and saved her. These guys are such fucking liars.
Actively fighting to protect them all. It's a story about the shift in power dynamics of a marriage, with one side in decline after losing his job but still trying to hold on to his former prestige as the breadwinner, too proud to admit that he's no longer the respected patriarch, and the other...
Which, by the way, completely destroys what you just said about him earlier. When you actually reveal what was going on with him and why he wasn't saying things and being more open with them. Fucking stupid.
Side, underappreciated and held back by society and convention, but very much in the ascendancy as their natural talents and potential assert themselves. It's the kind of tritely predictable pattern that's repeated throughout most of the characters in this movie. The women are generally portrayed as smart, competent, practical, brave and level-headed, making most of the important decisions, taking the initiative and putting together major clues about what's happening, while the men are passive, submissive, incompetent failures who contribute almost nothing and usually...
This is all a lie. So I've already mentioned that Greg goes out of his way to try and save his wife multiple times, sacrificing himself, fighting a dinosaur by himself. Let's talk about the son, Brian. Brian leaves the house to go after his dog in the midst of all of these dinosaurs coming after him. He goes out by himself with a bow and arrow and a flashlight to save his dog without asking for help from anyone else. Does that sound like something a passive, submissive person would do? Is that what they do? I mean, the reality is, and this is the narrative that these guys paint and the trick that they play on you, if a man is featured as confident, right, they would call him a real man. But if the man is flawed or layered in any way, they just call him submissive and emasculated. And if the mom is scared, she's just a useless whammon, as they would call it here. But if the mom acts, she's a girl boss. By the way, Anne is the lead of the movie. She is the lead character. Therefore, it makes sense that she's the one driving the narrative of the film because she is the lead of the film. So he keeps trying to diminish the supporting characters in the movie and the co-lead of the movie by making it seem like there's a problem with the woman being the lead of the film because she's the one calling a lot of the shots. She's the main character of the movie. Holy fuck. These lies.
They end up getting killed for their own stupidity. Oh, the family.
Oh, their stupidity, right? So the father dies saving the mother. That's not stupidity. You called him submissive and passive. But when he goes out and he fights the dinosaur to save his wife, then he's stupid. I want to run this back. Then he's stupid when he actually does something assertive to save his wife, to be selfless.
Clues about what's happening.
That makes him
men
stupid.
Are passive, submissive, incompetent failures who contribute almost nothing and usually end up getting killed for their own stupidity. Oh.
Right, again, the husband died trying to save the wife by himself. So stupidity. So what could they do? What would be your standard for these characters to not be these submissive, passive guys? Like, how would that work for you? They can fight dinosaurs, but only a certain way. They can only save their wives a certain way. Sacrificing themselves is stupidity. Interesting.
The family's teenage daughter just so happens to be an expert in astrophysics, huh? Who could have predicted this?
Well, it's because we're following this family in this story. And in order for that to work, certain characters are going to have things that they're good at to make the story flow better. Who could have predicted it? This isn't a reality TV show. This isn't some competition like Big Brother where we just have real people coming in and competing against each other. It's a movie where they write the story and they craft the story around the premise of the film. Therefore, her having that skill set is important to the story of the film. That's why it's there. She's not some woman that walked in off the street and just happens to have all of these ideas and all of this information. She's a character that was written specifically to participate in the story of the film. Holy fuck.
It's as dated as it is alienating. It feels more like a product of the 2010s when Hollywood was high on its own farts and convinced that this stuff was the future of cinema.
How's that working out for you?
Well, it wasn't back then and it still isn't today, and if Oak Street's box office is anything to go by, it's not likely to return anytime soon.
All right, we're going to stop there because as you remember, I said earlier, in order for people to reject this movie, they would have to see it first because this is a brand new IP. Very little was known about this movie before it came out. This isn't like, oh, it's just Marvel doing Marvel, or it's DC doing DC, or it's Star Wars doing Star Wars. No, this is a brand new IP, meaning that all of these issues you have with it, all of these things you're complaining about would not be apparent to someone unless they went and saw the movie first. So if in this hypothetical, everything you're saying is true here, if that were the case, if all of it was true, then people wouldn't know until they went and saw the movie. And then online feedback would reflect that, meaning the box office opening weekend would be what it's going to be, 80 million, 90 million, 100 million, whatever. But then you would look at the scores on somewhere like Rotten Tomatoes, and it would say like 20%, 30%, because people would say, it's just the same shit I've already seen. But that's not the truth. Word of mouth and general scoring for this movie has been relatively well received. How can people reject a movie that is underperforming at the box office based on no track record? How does that work? Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor are pretty well beloved actors. Anne Hathaway has had a really good year this year, in terms of movie that she's been in. So it's a little weird to me that you would look at Anne Hathaway and give her all this criticism when she just came out of The Devil Wears Prada 2 and she was just in The Odyssey. And you're going, yeah, obviously it's an issue with Hollywood and what they're doing with these actresses. These guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about. This is desperation. Let's take a look at Critical Drinker's channel and see how he's doing in terms of content. What is he talking about recently? So we got The End of Oak Street, which is actually in theaters right now, and he's trying to flop watch it. Dinosaurs versus Girl Bosses, which is just a complete lie. We got the Patty Jenkins Crash and Burn video. We got Lost Media about Batgirl Doctor Who Event Horizon. We got a She-Hulk video. We got Casting Calamities. Things aren't looking great for Critical Drinker. There's nothing for them to flop watch right now. There's nothing for them to complain about. So now it's really tough for them, and they are again scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I have to say, it's quite juicy if you go and you watch that full interview of his with the director of Primitive War, and you'll see just how much he's willing to overlook when he gets the opportunity to have access to media with talking to directors or people associated with movies. And all of a sudden, the Critical Drinker becomes less critical and more of just a drinker.